as I do with so many of my speeches, and that is an anecdote, because I'm so privileged to have the opportunity to be here in this House and to represent the good people of Calgary, Midnapore, and to be their voice within this House. And so I'm going to tell the story, one of my favorite stories. Several years ago now, when I was a younger and fitter woman, when I won the Gold Award for the Duke of Edinburgh. And I was very excited to achieve this award and to receive it. I know there are many young Canadians from coast to coast to coast that strive for this fine award, and many of the different levels which you can achieve with it. And so with this Gold Award, I was very motivated. It had numerous different components: a fitness component, an outdoors component, a community service component, and it was with great vigor that I undertook this award, and that I went on to achieve this award, Madam Speaker, because when this award was finally presented to myself, it was done so by Prince Philip, and it was very much wonderful to have the opportunity to meet him, and I certainly wish him well at this time, and his family well as well. But that was really one of my major introductions to the United Kingdom and all that this nation has to offer. My interest in foreign affairs and diplomacy, of course, would continue in the early 2000s when I wrote the Foreign Service exam and very fortunately was accepted, went on temporary duty to Argentina, and then went on to be Chargée d'Affaires to El Salvador, which was a very proud moment for me, a wonderful time to represent my Canada abroad, very much so. And of course, being the Chargée, you have the honor that when the head of mission is out of country, you act as Canada's representative. And certainly, as I learned in my accreditation ceremony in El Salvador at the Presidential Palace, after we had taken the motorcade through the nation to the Presidential Palace and was receiving the accreditation along with my ambassador. I was told, always behind the ambassador. But certainly when she was out of the country, I was very proud to take that role. But on one particular occasion, I had the interesting fortune of when the C4, the Central America 4 agreement, was being negotiated with Canada. And the next round of negotiations was going to be taken place at a time when the head of mission was out of the country. And as such, I would be the representative. So I was very excited, very nervous. I went to the secure room, as a diplomat does back in the day, and the fax was printed out, and I took the fax and I read the notes over and over again about this position on pork, this position on sugar. So I prepared and I prepared and I prepared, and the big moment came, and I went off to the trade minister's office in El Salvador with my papers ready, with my positions ready, and the trade minister approached me, and she took the envelope out of my hand and she said, "You tell your government that we will get back to them in 2 weeks." And so my big moment that I had prepared for had come and was gone. But my point here is, Madam Speaker, is that a diplomat only does what their government asks them to do. And I would later go on and speak about this in this chamber as well, when our current leader of the official opposition asked that I respond to the situation which unfortunately took place at our High Commission in India, when the government's administration organized an event to which an accused terrorist was there at the time. And so I went through the process of responding to this within the House. I walked the caucus through what goes through vetting a list of individuals who are invited to an event and what that looks like. But I still remain true to the fact that a diplomat only does, and a trade negotiator, as was my experience with the C4 negotiation, which unfortunately did dissolve, and I believe ended up being a unilateral agreement with Honduras, but nonetheless something came out of it, only does what their government asks them to do. And my sentiments right now, Madam Speaker, in regards to the response of this government on so many things, but also in regards to this agreement as well, is just disappointment that so much more could be done. You know, I think about what could have been the potential response for this pandemic in terms of trade opportunities, and certainly it's been a very difficult year. We are coming upon the 1-year anniversary where we were all sent home from this beautiful chamber, but certainly when this was occurring and we were seeing world forces shifting, I was considering the fact that it would be an incredible time for Canada to reevaluate its position in the world. And were I the Prime Minister, I would have done a complete evaluation of our inventory from coast to coast to coast of natural resources, from energy and mineral and agriculture and textile, and really looked at how markets were changing and emerging with perhaps less reliance on China and Europe turning inward to evaluate those opportunities. And I think we see within this piece of legislation, again, just opportunities missed. But this is a theme, Madam Speaker, I think, unfortunately, with this government. And what I'm pointing to with the unfortunate situation that happened in India, with this trade agreement, is that this government, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, has had no guiding values for foreign policy. And we've seen this time and time again. We've seen this with how they are handling the situation with China and the two Michaels who remain incarcerated. We saw this with their lack of will and gumption to stand up to China in regards to the Uyghur motion. We saw this with the current deputy minister's tweets regarding Saudi Arabia. We saw this with a stance I wish would have been more firm regarding Venezuela. All of these indicators which have shown that they have no foreign policy values. And I believe that, again, this trade agreement is just a byproduct of their inability to have a coherent strategic foreign policy that looks out for the best interests of Canadians and for Canada. And what makes me the most sad, Madam Speaker, is when I think of the opportunities missed, and I think comparably to the previous administration, of which the previous speaker belonged to, and of the greats of Harper and Kenney and Baird. And I was very fortunate at the time to be a policy advisor. I took 1 year away from my foreign service career to serve the current member for Thornhill, who was Minister of State for the Americas at the time. And we had principles which guided us, Madam Speaker, and those included amongst them democracy. You know, are we really standing up for democracy here in Canada and acting as an example to the world currently? I don't think we are. Are we standing up for justice, Madam Speaker? I don't think we are. Are we standing up for the prosperity of the world and prosperity of Canadians right now, Madam Speaker? I don't think we are. I'm certainly not seeing it within this trade agreement, very frankly. And I extend this beyond this trade agreement. And as I said, I feel as though this government has been a government of missed opportunities, that we have seen this with the pandemic, the opportunity to prepare better, to prepare Canadians better, to avoid so much of the hardship and illness and death that we've seen as a result of this terrible last year. A result of not preparing better for the economy and the missed opportunities here. And I would include this trade agreement, within this, the inability to look forward. And this is the crux of the opposition motion that we have had here today, Madam Speaker, the inability to think forward for Canada's economic prosperity. And finally, Madam Speaker, just the opportunity missed for foreign policy to stand up for strong values, Canadian values, and that includes with this trade agreement, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires? L'honorable député de Berthier-Mascouche.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Mascouche. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her speech, which is aimed at positive messages. And she's being firm about unacceptable things. I want to bring back a question I asked earlier. We know that this agreement is going to be a temporary agreement, and there will be 3 years to put in place a new agreement. Isn't the member concerned about the future demands of Great Britain, especially, for example, with regard to cheese coming into our territory and supply managed products, which we are trying to defend? I know that her position, or rather her political party, seems opposed to this bill, and so I'd like to understand, because in their messaging they say that they really want to defend supply management, so I'd like to hear what my colleague has to say on that. Thank you.
For Calgary-Midnapore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for his question. Yes, of course, I have a number of concerns about this bill and this agreement. I think what the member said only adds to my position, which is that currently the government is talking us about positions on values. And for me, that is the very crux of foreign affairs, is to have values and defend them. And in my opinion, the government currently does not have any robust values with regard to foreign affairs in general. So I am full of concern, yes, about the positions taken by this government, but also with this on this agreement. So it's been almost 5 months that we've been looking at this bill, so I don't have a lot of hope that they'll be able to find any values with regard to foreign affairs, but I think the government doesn't really care about foreign affairs. Thank you.
The honourable member for Niagara West. Is it? Sorry. Let's see. Langley Aldergrove. Sorry.
Niagara, close to Niagara. Close to the border. I want to thank my colleague from Calgary-Midnapore for her speech. It's my understanding that the United Kingdom negotiated trade agreements with several other countries, but that Canada did not. Came to a memorandum of understanding, but yes, we did not finalize that agreement. So what does that say about our government's priorities when it comes to negotiating free trade agreements?
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, thank you very much to the member from Langley Aldergrove for this question. And as I said, I am very disappointed in their performance of, frankly, looking out for Canada's interests comparative to the previous administration, who, as I said, were the masters who recognized the importance of looking for synchronicities and win-win situations with other nations. And I definitely feel as though this government has not done that. Once again, everything just seems to be last minute and thrown together, and it's very upsetting. But actually, the member for Langley Aldergrove also reminds me of another incredible opportunity that I forgot to mention within my speech, in which I know the leader of the official opposition is a big fan of, and that's Kanzik. So this also provides another example of another incredible opportunity beyond the UK to other nations who have similar values to Canada. But as I said, Madam Speaker, several times over, both in English and in French, unfortunately, this government lacks a moral value compass, not only which to govern, but with which to govern foreign affairs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.